Welcome to Fast Keto. I'm your host, Ketogenic Girl. Did you know that your body can actually be either a sugar burner or a fat burner? On this podcast, we talk all about how to make your body a fat-burning, fat-fueled machine and engaging your full metabolic flexibility. I'm Vanessa Spina. I am a sport nutrition specialist, a biomedical science student at U of T, and I am the author of the best-selling cookbook Keto Essentials, available on Amazon, and creator of the Ketogenic Girl Challenge program. And I am obsessed with optimizing our health through all these different biohacks, ketogenesis, intermittent fasting, all of these amazing tools that center around making the body a fat-adapted, fat-fueled machine. With this in mind, I present interviews to you with biomedical scientists, physicians, and people from all around the world who have experienced remarkable results from following a low-carb or ketogenic diet and getting their body into ketogenesis. So I hope you guys enjoy these interviews with this goal in mind. Hey you guys, happy Thursday. Thank you so much for being here and joining me today on this episode of Fast Keto. Today's episode is a solo cast. And the theme of today's episode is going to be protein partitioning and iron. And we're going to talk about those two in the context of maximizing fat loss and weight loss and maximizing muscle gain and muscle protein synthesis and how to do that while staying in ketosis. So complicated topics in some ways, but I'm trying to make them as accessible as possible and not get too into the weeds with biochemistry. But how can we optimize fat loss and weight loss to get the best body recomposition, trigger muscle protein synthesis, and get the most muscle possible, and also stay in ketogenesis? Is it possible? I definitely think it is. And I'm going to talk all about that on the episode today, as well as iron levels in weight loss and how iron levels are connected back to stalls. Now, I've talked about this a couple of other times on the podcast, more recently when I had Dr. Paul Mason on the episode, but I really think it's such an important point. And I want to talk a little bit more about why red meat and iron is so important in the diet. And I really think that one of the main reasons why carnivore diets and meat-based diets have been so helpful for people to get past stalls, to break weight loss stalls, has to do with a couple of things that are found in red meat. So we're going to talk all about that today on this episode of Fast Keto. Thanks for being here. All right, you guys, I love getting to be here with you for these solo cast episodes, and it absolutely means the world to me when I get a brand new rating or review on the podcast. So I really want to start giving a shout out to people who take the time to leave me a rating or review, because it really means so much to me. You have no idea. I do this podcast all for you guys, and it makes my entire day when I get a new podcast review. So I want to share one of the more recent ones I had, which was from Mel Domar, 5-star review. So much knowledge. I've been listening to Fast Keto for a while now. I'm constantly blown away by all the amazing knowledge and information I gain from each episode. Vanessa has a way of getting into the science in a way that all of us can understand. I've learned so much. I love it. Thank you so much, Mel Domar, for leaving me that incredible review. That really made my whole day. I can't even tell you what it does for me to get positive reviews like that, because I put all of my heart into this podcast and it just means the world to me now. Allergic to Everything CA wrote, I just discovered this podcast. I'm loving it. I lost 50 pounds doing keto fasting last year, and I'm always looking to learn more about the most healthy ways of living and eating. You explain things in a scientific but simple way that makes it understandable. I really appreciate what you are doing, and I just want to say thank you. Keep at it. Wow. Thank you so much. When I get reviews like this, it makes all the time I put into the podcast and content and free videos and posts and things, it makes it all so meaningful and worthwhile for me. So I really want to start taking a moment on the show just to thank you guys and, read out some of your reviews because they make me feel pretty dang good. And it just makes me feel so great about getting to take the time to do these. And it makes me encouraged in sharing more and more and doing more episodes like I have been doing since January, 2 episodes a week, an expert interview in the first part of the week, usually on Mondays, and then a solo cast or having another guest on the show for maybe a story on the Thursday or Friday episode. So I love doing these solo casts with you guys because they're so much fun and I get to geek out on one particular subject. And I've really found that with success in weight loss, so much of it comes down just to getting out of our own way. And that goes the same for anything in life. We sometimes can be our own biggest obstacle, and so much of this knowledge and information is out there for us. So if you're listening to this podcast, you're obviously getting out of your own way because you are taking in new resources that are going to help you. Now, I have to tell you guys, I'm so pumped. Just a little bit of quick housekeeping here. I'm so pumped about a 3 to 4 part series that's coming out starting on Monday with Ella Bruce. Now, Ella is one of the people in the keto space that I have followed for a while, and she just absolutely blows me away. Her knowledge of biochemistry, of fitness, of bodybuilding. She's a fitness competitor, bodybuilding competitor, and she has achieved incredible results in her own life in terms of body recomposition. So we have done 2 recordings now, and her knowledge and information is so incredibly valuable. I'm actually going to break it down into 3 or 4 parts. And then next Friday, we're going to be doing a live AMA Ask Me Anything episode with Ella. Now she's in Australia, so it's going to be 4:30 a.m. for her, 8:30 p.m. for me. But if you are in North America, it will be 8:30 a.m. Eastern Time, 11:30 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. And that's going to be next Friday on May 29th. It's going to be a live Instagram, and she's going to be joining us. She has so much incredible knowledge on body recomposition. So mark your calendars if you're around to join us. I'll be posting reminders throughout the week over on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. But it is going to be one heck of an episode. And we are hoping to do a lot more of these, make this a regular thing, and really start creating sort of a platform of mentorship in order to be able to help as many people as we can to getting to their body recomposition goals. Both of us have achieved our body composition goals, and we really want to give back and help as much as we can. So keep your eyes peeled for that episode next Friday. I have my carnivore meal plans. They're almost done. Some of you have pre-ordered them already because the pre-order link has been up on the website. Unfortunately, our photographer had a death in her husband's family. I announced this in our Facebook group, and she needs to travel. It's not easy to travel right now. She needs to travel for that situation. And my heart goes out to her. And all of you have been so kind in our members group in sending her condolences. Unfortunately, it's going to delay the photos a little bit for the meal plans, for the carnivore meal plans. So if you pre-ordered, I'm going to have to ask for your patience for a couple more weeks. I was hoping to have them out by June 1st, but, I absolutely told her, of course, don't even think about anything. Go do what you need to do. And we will be here when you're back, and you're back and ready to continue with the photography. So our hearts go out to her. And I hope everything goes well with the funeral service and all of that. And, the meal plans will be out when they're out. And I know that you all have been really patient in me creating them and working on them. And I'm so excited. I just want to get the best possible meal plans out to you and make sure that, they're edited really well, as best as possible, and that the photos look fantastic for you guys too. So that's a little quick housekeeping, some updates on those meal plans. And If you want to check out the phase 2 higher protein plans, they're called the Keto Carnivore plans, and they are based on what I have been doing for the past couple of years that really cranked up my body recomposition, going from initially 40% to 34% and then 34% down to 21, which I'm at now. I may be between 20 and 21% now. And it's all been through following these plans, which prioritize protein a bit more. So it's a Keto Carnivore phase 2 plans. They're for fat loss and building lean mass, and they are higher in protein than the original plan. So those are all at ketogenicgirl.com. They come with membership in our coaching group as well, our Facebook coaching group, which is there to answer any questions that you have as you go along through this process. I'm here to help guide to the best of my ability and help you get the results that you want to see in terms of your body composition. And just remember, as always, going by the weight scale is the least best way to measure your progress and results. Measuring your body with a tape measure, going by clothing, and the ultimate body composition scanning is the best way to know if you're actually burning fat, because the scale often shows deceiving numbers. It shows the wrong numbers. It shows, scale weight creeping up when someone is actually burning fat and gaining muscle, which is what we want. Ultimately, if you want to be leaner, if you want to be healthier, if you want to be more fit, you want to have the greatest amount of lean mass possible, the lowest fat mass possible. That's possible for you, maintaining healthy hormonal function and all of that. So the scale just is so poor at giving us feedback on progress in that arena when it comes to building lean mass and burning body fat. So please try not to rely on the scale so much if you are doing a higher protein approach, especially if you're doing the Keto Carnivore higher protein plans. People typically see more movement on the scale on my original 28-day challenge program, but the Keto Carnivore phase 2 higher protein plans are designed for following that. Once you got yourself into ketosis, balance out insulin and get it down, getting your fasting insulin down, getting your blood sugar down, getting your body into that fat burning mode, and then switching over to a higher protein plan. It's not high protein. It's just higher than the original 28-day challenge plan. So thanks for letting me update you guys on all of that. And thank you for being patient with me on the carnivore meal plans, because I really want you to love them as much as possible. So back to today's topic. We're talking all about iron, and one of the main reasons I think that carnivore diets have been so effective for people to burn weight, it's not so much the carb restriction as it is iron. And I'll explain that. So a lot of protein scientists that I've interviewed out there's a couple specifically who've studied protein extensively, and they found that for every 100 grams of protein that you consume, this is Dr. Don Layman's work, and Dr. Stu Phillips has done some similar work in this area, but 100 grams of protein is converted into about 60 grams of glucose in the body. So even if you're not eating any carbs, if you're eating a lot of protein, you are creating glucose in the body, and amino acids can't be stored. So the body has to utilize them within 5 to 6 hours. So you want to get enough protein at your meals to trigger muscle protein synthesis to build new muscle, but not so much at your meals that you're completely kicking yourself out of ketogenesis all the time. And one way that you can do that is actually to make sure you get enough protein at your meal, and that tends to be around the 30 gram mark that triggers muscle protein synthesis because you get enough leucine with that, but not overdoing it. And that can happen really easily when it comes to one meal a day and doing a one meal a day routine, because if you actually partition out your protein throughout the day into smaller amounts, so if you're eating more frequently, if we talk about meal frequency, say 3 times a day, you can actually get more benefit thermogenically, because when we eat protein, about 30% of the calories are lost in eating protein and breaking it down. So if you eat more frequently than one meal a day, I'm not talking about 6 meals a day here, but say 2 or 3 meals a day, you're going to amplify the thermogenic effect, the thermic effect of that protein breakdown, and you're going to be able to burn more of the calories that you're consuming in the form of protein. Now, carbs and protein have a really similar thermic effect, but protein is the highest, which is why I think higher proteins or protein prioritized diets really are the best for maximizing fat loss and maintaining and building lean muscle and muscle mass. So if you overdo protein at a sitting, say you're doing one meal a day, your body then has to utilize all of that glucose and amino acids, which is why people tend to see a higher blood sugar when they're doing a higher protein. But if you separate that into multiple meals, you're not going to overwhelm your system with all this glucose that your body has to make. Even if you do one meal a day, your body is going to break that down slowly over the next 5 to 6 hours. But if you are breaking it up into at least 2 or 3 times a day instead of one meal a day, I think that you're likely going to maximize the benefits of thermogenesis. You're going to get the most calories lost from the protein you eat. You're going to get the most benefit in terms of muscle protein synthesis and muscle sparing, and you're going to optimize your body composition the best. And also, some people tend to feel like really tired after eating a huge meal. I know I do, because digestion takes a lot of energy. So eating one meal a day can also make people feel lazy and tired afterwards, and that's really not optimal. So that's another argument for why you'd want to be eating multiple times a day. But if we take that in context, I really think that iron is really, really an important overlooked aspect of, our energy levels and fat loss. And I discovered this through Dr. Paul Mason, who found some research and studies on iron levels and how the body was becoming inflamed in these subjects in the studies from inflammatory foods found in, say, lectins in nuts. And nuts are really high in lectins, which is why I talk about them as a fat loss blocker. And if the body is inflamed because of a leaky gut permeability, not having a strong gut lining, that can happen from, our modern environments, from a lot of the foods that we eat, which are inflammatory and can cause gut wall damage, and the body is inflamed, it's going to bind up all the iron that we eat. So reducing nuts, reducing intake of dairy can be really helpful for that. But the other thing that we forget is that women especially lose a lot of iron through monthly menstruation, through childbirth. And we have to eat even more red meat. We have to consume even more iron in order to build those stores back up and make sure that we have adequate levels. So it's not just that we need to get more because of iron being bound up if we have inflammation in the body, but also women actually tend to lose more iron through diet. And that's why it's so important for our meat, primarily the meat that we consume, to primarily be from ruminant animals. And that tends to be beef, lamb as well, but I really like beef in particular. And I really think that the fact that it has so much iron in it, that's readily available, bioabsorbable, and it also has creatine in it, which is really important for fat loss. Iron and creatine are both really important for optimizing fat loss. Our body needs iron for so many processes, just in DNA transcription, in RNA transcription, and it's just such an important element, and it can't be lost through cooking because it's an iron, it's a metal. So you don't lose it when you cook steak. You don't have to worry about that. But you also get creatine, which is really great. And Dr. Jose Antonio, who's done a lot of protein overfeeding studies and is head of the ISSN, he said that creatine is the most important factor when it comes to optimizing body composition. So we get both of those from red meat. And if you look at L-carnitine, which is also in red meat, it's actually a big part of fatty acid, of burning fat, of lipolysis in the body. Through biochemistry, we have something called this L-carnitine shuttle that helps shuttle fatty acids into our cells, into our muscle cells, to be burned and utilized for energy. So when you look at the full picture, all of that is in red meat. And I think that if you are doing keto, if you are doing carnivore, zero carb, you would want most of your protein intake to be coming from red meat because it is going to help boost those levels of iron. It's going to help replenish levels of iron. It's also going to help contribute to creatine and to L-carnitine. And all of that is going to help optimize fat loss, maximize muscle gain. And it's so, so important for most of the protein to be coming from that. And that's why other sources are just really not on the same level. If you're talking about whey protein, egg whites, you also do get some fatty acids that come with eating red meat. And those are important too for satiety, for hormonal function, and for enjoying the food that you eat. So it's not, super bland. But I really think that incorporating that in, fish, chicken, turkey, that kind of food is really, really lean if you're looking to lean out. But I think that having some fat come with the meal is important. It can be actually beneficial for fat loss. And I had Dr. Ben Bickman on, and we were talking about that on the podcast about how fatty acids really help the body to oxidize and burn fat for fuel. So red meat really is the optimal source of protein when it comes to fat loss, to recomposition, to boosting muscle in the body, and to replenishing iron levels and keeping iron levels high when our bodies are potentially in inflamed states or not. It's just a really important factor. And then, as we discussed, the creatine and L-carnitine. So I hope that that was helpful for you guys out there. If you're listening and you're, wanting to say moderate your protein intake so that you are still in ketogenesis, you can divide your meals up so that they are more frequent in the day. You maximize your opportunities for building new muscle with muscle protein synthesis, but you may be able to stay in ketogenesis if you are then, not overdoing the protein at one sitting. You're also going to get a higher thermic effect, and you may be able to stay in ketogenesis or ketosis more readily that way by partitioning up your protein throughout the day. So you can still definitely be in ketogenesis, eating, keto, carnivore, higher protein intakes. You got to find that right threshold for you, and Dr. Don Layman recommends somewhere between 90 to 140 grams a day for muscle protein synthesis. I think about 30 grams a day is recommended by Dr. Gabriel Lynd. 30 grams per meal per day. So that's 3 meals of eating 30 grams of protein at each of those meals. Really could be ideal with no snacking in between, or doing 2 meals at 45 grams of protein per meal. To make sure you stay in ketogenesis, really optimize all of that. So try it out for yourself, try out different levels, see where you feel your best, where you get the best fat loss. Go by the tape measure, go by body composition, by the fit of your clothing, by how you look and feel when you look in the mirror. Those are going to be really beneficial feedback as opposed to just going by the scale. So I know we talked about a few different things on this episode. I really wanted the main theme to be about iron and about protein intake, and I hope you guys got something out of that. Let me know if you had any insights from it, any light bulb moments for you, and anything that sort of clicked for you. I love hearing where you guys are listening to the episode from. If you tag me over on Instagram, in your stories of where you're listening to, or just share with me what you took away from the episode. And if you found it helpful, share it with someone that you think would enjoy it too. And as always, leave me a rating, a review, and subscribe so that you get notifications when new episodes are out. So sending you all lots of love on this beautiful Thursday in May. Hope that spring is springing for you, and I am so excited about summer. I don't know about you. Spring is my favorite time of the year because it's really just the start of all of it, all the blooming and blossoming and freshness and renewal that happens this time of year. And it's such a beautiful time of the year. So sending you all lots of love. And until the next episode, wishing you a fat-fueled rest of your day. Thanks for listening. A few disclaimers. By listening to this podcast, you agree not to use this podcast as medical advice, as I am not a qualified healthcare provider. The information presented on this podcast is for educational purposes only. Ketogenic Girl is not qualified to provide medical advice. Consult your own physician for any medical issues that you may be having. This entire disclaimer also applies to any guests or contributors to this podcast. Prior to beginning a ketogenic diet, you should undergo a full health screening with your physician to confirm that a keto diet is suitable for you and to rule out any conditions or contraindications that may pose risks or that are incompatible with the ketogenic diet. A keto diet may or may not be appropriate for you if you have any kind of health condition, whether known to you or unknown, so you must consult your physician to find this out. Anyone under the age of 18 should consult with their physician and their parents or legal guardian.